All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Creators Corner. Really excited for this interview with you guys here. And so if you guys are here tuning in, welcome. If you guys are on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, everywhere, let us know. Say hello in the comments. We'd love to hear where you guys are from and get your questions for a special guest today. So got a really special guest, guys. So I'm going to bring him on in just a second. But Matthew Encina, he's the Chief Content Officer over at The Future, which is a huge brand online led by Chris Do, who I had on the show a couple months ago, and he really laid down some awesome wisdom when it comes to branding and building a business online. And so Matthew is one of the guys that creates a lot of content on there, and so really brought him on to talk about productivity and creativity and how he balances that with his daily work and daily life. So I'm going to bring him on the screen now. So give me 2 seconds, guys. Matthew, how's it going?
Hey, going really good. Nice to see you all.
Yeah, man. Thanks for hanging out for the next little bit. Before we dive into questions, I see Catherine here. I see people tuning in. Say hello, guys, in the chat. We'd love to know that you guys are here. So before we dive into questions, Matthew, why don't you say a few words about who you are, what you do, your personal channel, the future, everything else, and then I've got a few questions for you. We'll dive into it.
Sure, yeah. Well, I'm Matthew Encina. I have way too many titles and roles, but as Rob said, I'm the Chief Content Officer at The Future, which basically means I'm the head of content there. I oversee the team where we produce educational content for creative people to grow and level up so they can earn a living doing what they love. On the side, I have my own personal channel where I talk about my own lifestyle as a creative and the productivity behind that. And in a past life, I was a creative director in the advertising and branding space for over a decade, working on TV commercials for brands like Xbox, PlayStation, and bands like Coldplay. So now I'm here in the world of YouTube talking to people like Rob, and I'm on another chapter of my life, man.
Yeah, man. Awesome. We got Ozil here. Ozil says he's looking forward to this interview. Big fan of The Future. So awesome. We got Catherine here as well. So yeah, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with us. So Matthew, man, tell us a little bit about the YouTube side of things, because you spend a lot of time on YouTube. You've got 3 channels that you're essentially involved with. You've got obviously your personal channel. We've got The Future. You guys see this on the screen. You guys, going back here. So Matthew, props. Almost 180,000 subscribers with 8 videos. Amazing. And then we've got The Future, which has just over 850,000 subscribers. And then The Future Academy, which is part of The Future, has over 160,000 subscribers. So I'd love to just kind of understand how much content do you create on a weekly basis? Like, how much time are you recording each week?
Not so much. In terms of actually making the content, it's a mix, because a lot of the time I spend really is thinking about what the idea is. So I do a lot of writing. And sometimes these are small articles. Sometimes these are just small bits that I'll jot down just to sort out my thoughts. I get them out on paper. So most of my time is actually spent writing and engaging with the community, because that's where a lot of my great ideas come from, is from talking to people, answering prompts and questions to help fuel the things that people are curious about. And having these conversations online are the things that really connect the dots for me to determine what kind of content we're going to produce. But I have probably 2 or 3 things going on at any given time. Sometimes my editorial team is editing something all remotely, right? And I'm giving them feedback and notes. And sometimes I'm doing the editing and authorship myself, or I'm shooting myself, cutting myself, and then not cutting myself, editing myself, and working on improving and optimizing the performance of our videos. So I have my hands in a lot of little jars there, but it's all under the umbrella of content creation.
Right. So yeah, so you're the things that we see, I think which is a lot for a lot of YouTube creators out there, you only see the things that they're obviously putting out there, but there's so much work behind the scenes. Like you said, engaging, all those things, editing, so many hats that you wear. So how much prep work do you actually put into each of your videos? Because I imagine there's quite a fair bit.
Yeah. On my personal channel, I probably do about 2 to 3 months worth of work for one video, because I've only released a video probably once a quarter. And I'm trying to improve that this month for sure. This year, I am trying to double that so I could get 8 videos out this year, but I'm nowhere near that close yet. But that's on my personal channel. That's because that's mostly after hours and on the weekends that I'm working on that. During the week, my 9 to 5 over at The Future, on our main channel, we're probably releasing 4 to 5 videos a week. And then on the Academy channel, we're probably doing about 2 videos a week. And that's with a whole team. That's not just me. Chris is heading up a lot of that too, right? Because he's the main host. He's the main thought leader on our channel. And, our team is partially doing cut downs of long live streams that we do all the time. And then on the side, we're working on original content, things that, are based off of 2-week sprints where I'm really focused on, where I have 2 weeks to make something from idea to publish. And that's what Chris has really been having me focus on authoring original content outside of what the rest of the team is doing.
That's crazy. Yeah. So for your channel, did you say about 2 months worth of like actual research, prep work? Because if you like, guys, I put the link to one of your most recent, your recent video, your latest video, and it seems like there's a lot of research. You share a lot of information, data, a lot of B-roll, just like really crisp, and so imagine that's a lot of work putting that together. So for each of your videos, how much work do you think, how many hours goes into each of your videos on your channel?
I don't know if I want to measure that. It's quite a bit. And when I said 2 to 3 months, that's just from end to end, from the idea all the way to creation of the video. So that is the total time. There is a lot of research trying to understand, first of all, what are the things that I'm interested, going deep down the YouTube rabbit hole and studying all the content that's already out there and what I could do better, essentially, like finding my white space within all of that. Then writing, recording, documenting, lots and lots of documenting. One thing I found is that with the YouTube audience, you have to keep them engaged. And one way to do that is to cut like every 5 or 7 seconds. That way you keep visual stimulation. And in order to do that, you need tons and tons of B-roll.
Right.
Some people, they avoid that and they just do the punch in, face, punch in, but they do that like every 7 seconds to keep that stimulation up. But I do that by documenting hundreds of hours of B-roll per video. So I spend a lot of time there. And then a lot of it is really, what is the narrative? What is the story here? Because anyone can show off their space. Anyone can show off their process. Anybody can show off something. But the narrative is the thing that makes it interesting and engaging, the reason why somebody might tune in and what they might get out of it. So that's why I said at the beginning of this, I spend a lot of time writing, and it's just clarifying my thoughts and articulating them in a way that somebody might understand that clearly.
Yeah, because one of the most recent videos on that you created for the feature is I tried to do 1 year's worth of writing in 1 week. So tell us a little bit about this is a longer video, but sort of the overarching message there that you got out of that video.
Yeah, so that was just a fun little project. I've always wanted to get better at writing, and I found out that many writers, because I wasn't trained in that at all, my background is in graphic design, but I know that writing is an important tool that I need to scale and that I need to sharpen and develop in order to become a great content creator. So I found this exercise called copy work. Which is essentially pick an author or book that you really enjoy and open the page and copy word for word exactly what the author has written there. The point is to understand what words they use, how they structure their sentences, and how they articulate their thoughts. So by doing this, by studying them, by copying, you can absorb that information through osmosis. You might start reflecting and understanding, well, why did the author do this? Or, ooh, this has a nice rhythm. That's why I like that. Or this is an interesting word combination or choice, and I've never thought of using it that way. So this is a great exercise. So many writers have sworn by this for hundreds of years. And I decided to take it on. But for the sake of documenting and teaching this to our audience, I wanted to see if I could do a year's worth of work in 1 week. So
Nice.
I chose Seth Godin, one of my favorite authors, and I chose to copy 365 of his blog posts.
Wow. Well, you guys will have to watch the video to to see the punchline and see if you did it, if you finished it. But yeah, no, that's really good advice. I was asking here if anyone's heard of copy work, and so Graham on YouTube says never heard of it before, but like you said, it's been used over hundreds of years by many writers and content creators. So that's very cool, man. Very cool. Okay, I want to go back to the engagement part because, like I said, your videos, the videos that you guys all create are very engaging. You mentioned something about jump cuts every 5 to 7 seconds. That's one of the things. Also narrative. Any other sort of like advice for the YouTube creators that are watching about keeping their audience engaged for as long as possible throughout the video?
Right. I think that comes from understanding very fundamentally, before you do anything, what is the point? What is the purpose? So before you even decide to start shooting, before you start cutting, what is the purpose of your video? So if you have a very clear objective of what it's supposed to do, that is going to be your guardrails through your entire process, so that you don't go off the road shooting hundreds of hours of something that won't even be used. So if you usually when I start a video, I'll just write it in a document, like a Notion document, or write it on a piece of paper that I'm writing my thoughts down. It's like, what is the point? I want to teach somebody what copy work is and what can realistically be done in writing in terms of improvement for 1 year, over 1 week. So if that was my objective, then everything is based off of that. My story structure is all based off of that. And as I'm building the story, every great story is just a build of tension and then release, build of tension and release. And Chris Do taught this to me. And he told me that all great stories are simply this. You have a character, and that character wants something. And you make it very clear upfront what that character wants, their objective. And then for the whole duration of the piece of content, you make it impossible for that person to get there, right? So, for instance, Toy Story, Woody wants to be Andy's favorite toy.
Right.
That's all he wants. And what happens? It makes it, imagine the entire journey he took to get there, and realize he got something that he needed, not necessarily what he wanted, right? So there's all these lessons along the way. And that's what makes for a great narrative. You just have conflict. You just have struggles and you have obstacles. And the more you can program that in there by making it clear as to what's the point up front, what might I get out of this, or what's the big question, and then you slowly answering that through a bunch of interesting points of building tension, and then releasing that and building tension until you get to the climax, and finally the resolution of the video.
So simple. So it's so simple, but it takes forever to really understand that and get that through. So, okay, so let's take that example then and just pick one of your recent videos. And so how do you apply that to YouTube videos? That building that tension, releasing it. Do you do that once? Do you do that multiple times in, say, like a tutorial type video? Or do you kind of, throughout the whole thing, there's one big tension that you then release at the end?
Yeah, so for most of my videos, and it's not exclusive because I play with structures all the time.
Right.
Usually at the very beginning, I try to hook somebody, right? Like either there's a nice cold open, meaning it's right at the middle of the climax, and then I don't answer what happens. And then the rest of the video, I start from the beginning and build all the way back up to that point, right? That's one way to do it. Another way is to give somebody context right away. Why is this important? For instance, like my desk videos, I talk about all the time the importance of why you need to have a clean and organized space, or why you have to have a space that is built for you. And then I show you how to do that. and I probably break that down into 3 to 5 steps. And then by the end, I show you the results of what I've accomplished towards the end. So again, very, very similar, giving context up front, breaking it down, and then building that up until the very end. And you could see this if you study any piece of good content. It's like this. Like one channel that I really like in terms of storytelling is Vox. I love Vox in terms of how they communicate ideas, right? And the structure of all of their videos are exactly the same. So what they do is they drop you in the middle. It's a cold open. They say, here's something you're familiar with, or here's something you think you know. And then they build it up. Then why is this way? Then they leave you with a big question, something that intrigues you. It's like, shoot, I never thought of it. Like, why does everybody use Times New Roman? Or where did Times New Roman even come from as a font? Why is it the default font? And then they start at the beginning at a historical point, then they build all the way back up. And then they usually leave it at the end, not necessarily with a conclusion, but they conclude to a point where they leave you another question at the end. So it's like, where do we go from here? Should this be the standard font, or should, and then they leave you pondering. So they leave that a little bit of that resonance in your brain where you're still thinking about, or the residue of that idea, and they keep you thinking about that for the rest of the day. So they're excellent at it. I try to study them a lot. But if you look at any content creator, anything that you like, and it's like, wow, I watched that video end to end. Why did I do that? You'll see that they're all very similar in how they're structured.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you brought up Vox. Vox is one of my most favorite channels. They have like you said, like just the way that they structure their videos. There's so much you can learn as a storyteller with the way that they structure their videos. And I mean, it's just an awesome channel. The other thing that they do really well, and I think you guys do really well as well, is really the beginning point of picking a really good topic. Like there's just these topics that you sort of think of behind, like with Vox, it's kind of like, I've always wondered that, but nobody's created a video about it. Like, where did the word okay come from? It just goes back so far. It's just all these random videos. We got Miss Betty Fitness said, visited Matthew's YouTube channel and subscribed immediately. She's already watched both of your desk videos as well. That's awesome.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. So guys, if you guys are just tuning in and just kind of catching our live stream here, I'm here with Matthew Encina. He's the Chief Content Officer at The Future, which is an awesome, amazing company and brand out there. And he also has his personal channel as well, where he is crushing it, uploading at the most once every 2 months, but very high quality videos, very well thought out. Our good friend is here too. Hey, what's up? RR is here. Matthew is a boss. Awesome. Good to see you, man. Good to see you. Okay, so I want to ask you about your ideas. So I imagine a guy like you must have so many ideas going through your head about different videos that you can create and things like that. So how do you kind of prioritize these ideas? And how do you kind of keep track of them? Do you have a system to do that?
Yeah, so whenever I have an idea, and usually that becomes just a query in my head, like a question, a curiosity, or something that I've watched, like I've watched 3 videos on something, it's like, there's something there, and I have a question about it. What I'll do is I keep a log of everything in Notion. So Notion is just a program where it's like a knowledge database, but it's very flexible. You can build tables, databases, all kinds of stuff in there. But anyways, I as soon as I have an idea, I'll jot it down there and I'll just put it in the queue. I won't necessarily do anything with it because I'm always trying to focus on maybe 2 or 3 things at the most at any given time. Any more than that, I just get overwhelmed with the to-dos. So I have it set up, my Notion, in a way that I could only see the things that I should be focusing on, and everything else is in the queue. And as soon as I get rid of something out of my priority list, then I add something from the queue to it. That way I stay focused on just getting the thing done, because I hate leaving an unchecked to-do box. That drives me nuts and it stresses me out. So I have to get it done. So I want to get those things complete. In terms of how to prioritize that, usually It's driven by two things. One is if we have a very particular goal at the company, for instance, at the future, to drive a certain topic that we're going to be building up towards releasing a product, for instance, or if there's something very topical at the moment that everybody's talking about in the community, we usually tend to prioritize those things.
Okay.
Other times, it's just based off of momentum. So it's like, what am I so jazzed and passionate about that I'm reading and writing about this stuff already? Because it's hard to build momentum, and it's so important to ride on that when you have it. And I think most people like to try so many different things or do so many things that the context switching between all of those things just kills their momentum, and they never get anything done.
Yeah, that's really good. I mean, there sometimes there are too many ideas, and so it's interesting to hear your thoughts on it. Just because, again, like I said, I bet you guys have so many different ideas that you guys want to run with. Just Samson on YouTube says, I use Notion on a daily basis. Yeah, I think also RR also brought this up to me to use that he uses Notion. It's a new tool to me, to be honest. So I put a link, guys, to Notion in the chat. So if you guys want to check it out, it's there for you guys to tap into. Awesome. So with the whole YouTube thing, how did you even really get into videos? Like, what is your background with videos? You know, you went to school for media, but yeah, how did you get into YouTube? Did you get into YouTube first and then get into the future? What was the backstory there?
Yeah, so for YouTube, for the longest time, I've had a bias against it. I never wanted to be on YouTube. I never thought of myself as a YouTuber. And that term and that phrase, I always had a bias against it. It's like, oh, gross. Like, I don't want to be one of those people, you know? I was judging very hard because I didn't understand the platform or the community. And I've had that for a long time. Where I started was, you know, shooting camcorder videos on my parents' mini DV camera back in the 90s, right? Editing videos because I had access to a computer back then, and editing all these dance videos because I used to break dance for about 17 years of my life. So, you know, I would cut these things together, and that's where I would practice back in the 90s.
Yep.
And then moving forward, I went to school for graphic design. And some point in there, I got introduced to this thing called motion design, which is just a combination of animating, graphic design, essentially. It's just that visual communication over time. And that was a game changer for me because it combined so many things that I loved about animation, about movement, about editing, with my love for design and communicating ideas. So those things all came together. After I graduated from Art Center in 2007, I entered in the advertising space working on commercials. So I'd be doing 30-second spots for many, many, many years, animating and designing, eventually becoming a creative director, directing these commercials myself. All along in that process somewhere, maybe around 2007, I had picked up my first DSLR camera, which was a Rebel TI way back in the day. It was just a photo camera. I was just picking up photography as a hobby, learning how do I expose a frame. Right. Eventually, the 5D came out. I was like, that was game changer, right? That first one, it's like, I could shoot video on this. Wow. And I started making fun little travel videos, little fun videos with my friends. Nothing serious. And I uploaded those to YouTube, maybe got a few hundred views, not that much. And that was it. And that kind of went dormant for a while. And I just focused on the commercial work. 5 years ago, Chris Doe, which we were running our agency Blind at the time. And Blind is attached to the hip with the future because it's the same people, same building. One is a creative agency. The other one is our content creation platform. 5 years ago, he invited me on the channel. He said, you should teach something. I was like, why would anyone want to hear from me? Like, why me? Like, I have nothing to say. I'm not the guy in front of the camera. I'm not charismatic like you. People tune into the channel for you, Chris, not for me. I gave all these reasons why. And he pushed me. But I was like, okay, fine, I'll commit to it. When I did my first video, it probably took me 26 takes to do the open. I was so upset. None of it was perfect. I hated the sound of my voice. And I probably spent a whole month editing that thing, reshooting, editing, reshooting. But I finally got it out on the channel. And then I started getting feedback. It's like, wow, I needed to hear this. Wow, I did not know that. oh, that's such an interesting idea. I didn't think about applying this to my work. Oh, more of this guy. And I started seeing all these comments roll in. I was like, wow, people do value my voice, the things that I have to teach. And I was so grateful from that point that Chris had unlocked that in me. He helped just point the mirror back at me, right? Because the mirror we normally hold of ourselves is one that's hypercritical and sometimes a little bit judgmental and negative. He held up an objective one. It's like, dude, you've spent over a decade trying to learn this stuff, going to school, paying hundreds of thousands of dollars to learn this, and you don't think that's special? That's special to a lot of people. And you just need to open up and share that. And ever since that point, I started making more and more videos, and I started to understand YouTube. I started to understand the community, the platform, and then what it could be. And I cast aside all of my previous judgment about YouTube and what I thought it was, which I thought was just cat videos and dumb stuff.
Yeah.
Which I found there's just rich communities that are having great dialogues, and a lot of the things that you normally saw in local meetups, they're just all happening online now, and it's beautiful seeing the communities there. And I'm a converted person. I could see how amazing YouTube and many other platforms can be, just because they're just tools. They're just places to congregate.
I love that, man. I love that. Love that story, man. That's awesome. We got a comment here from Oziel de Bastos. It says, value your voice, and also says, awesome, fellow B-boy. I think all the 90s kids were breakdancing at some point in their lives. So
yeah, that's sure.
No, that's awesome, dude. I really appreciate that. It's we all do give ourselves a lot of excuses and reasons not to do things on YouTube, for sure. Even outside of that, but it's really cool that Chris was sort of that vehicle to kind of give you a different perspective on, man, dude, this is you. This is you got so much to offer, and that kind of it looks like unlocked a huge amount of potential that was pent up. And now, I mean, you have your own channel. You're killing it with the feature. So really good. So guys, we're going to do Q&A now. We've got some questions coming in here. So some questions about Notion, some questions about storytelling. So I'm just going to go through the list. So if you guys have any questions, drop them in. Okay, so first one here from Mrs. Betty Fitness. Question for Matthew. What are your top key, your key or top advice to improve in storytelling? I think you shared a couple earlier. Yeah, so I don't know if you have another one or two when it comes to storytelling, on YouTube in videos.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things. One thing is, when you write out your story, most people think about an event as a linear process. I did this, and then I did this, and then I did this, and then I did this. The better thing to do is start at the middle or start at the end. Notice when you asked about my history, about how I got to YouTube, I told you where I was at, somewhere in the middle, which is I had this bias, this judgment against YouTube, right? I'm trying to hook you with the idea that I didn't like this thing. I didn't understand the space. And then I went back to the beginning and brought you back up to, well, here's how I got to where I am right now. And now I'm producing content on YouTube, right? So that's one way to make your stories more interesting. The other thing is, if you have a clear goal in mind, meaning this video just needs to communicate this. It's really transformation. At the end of this video, what do I want my audience to walk away with? Just keep it simple. One thing. Sometimes we pick a subject and then think we have to talk about 20 things in order for them to understand the one. No, you don't. You just keep it super simple. What is the one action, feeling, or idea I want the audience to walk away with from the video? Keep it as simple as that. And then on the flip side, become a ruthless editor of your own work. Meaning, yeah, I might have shot 10 hours of footage, but I have to crop out and cut out 99% of that, so that the 5 minutes that are left there, that's gold. And that's only the things that are going to help you address your original goal, which is, I want to transform the audience this way. Everything else you should cut out. Be ruthless and just cut that stuff out.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of the things that you might find interesting in your audience, you just have to look through your audience's sort of filter through it too, and just, is it something that is interesting? So yeah, you guys do a really good job with that, man. Again, just giving you guys so much props, but you guys just really trim out a lot of the unnecessary footage It's just always like boom, 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 you know, like the quick jump cuts. Yeah, even with vlogs, like the way that your advice there would start in the middle with the storytelling. Like a lot of the vlogs that I follow, usually in the first 10 seconds, they're showing little like 2-second clips, 1-second clips from the middle or the end. And then they kind of bring you back to the beginning of their day, right? It's kind of like, yeah, very, very basic things. But yeah, that's awesome. Okay, I'm just going to go through some of these. Okay. Just Samson says, I text myself through the day, then collect all the ideas at the end of the day. So that's one way that he's keeping track of his ideas. That's awesome. Hey, just commented on Matthew's YouTube video about RAID systems. This guy has awesome aesthetics. Awesome. Cool. Question, what's the best way to back up your data on Notion, Mac and PC?
It's all online, so it's always backed up.
It's always backed up. There you go.
Yeah, it's always online, so it's always backed up no matter where you go.
Awesome. There you go. Graham says, I hated the sound of my voice. Says every YouTuber, no joke. This is more of a question for everyone. Does anyone like the sound of their voice?
Right.
I don't think so.
Well, you know what? It's something that you can control. And it was this, there was this TED video, and I think his name is Julian Treasure. And it's, I forget the name of the TED Talk right now, but I'm pretty sure it's Julian Treasure. Okay. And the whole TED Talk was talking about how to control your voice and what the difference is between like a high-pitched sound and how you might hear somebody versus somebody who speaks with a slower and deep voice. And there's a difference in how you perceive that person and how you might want to be perceived. So after I watched that video, I started understanding my own voice. When I get really excited, you know, it's okay to like come up to this register. And then when I want things to slow down and I want people to listen and I want people to really hear the words that I'm saying, I might slow down. I might speak with a little bit of a deeper voice in order to control the pace of how I sound. So this was something that was new to me, and I'm sure people who sing or do a lot of public speaking are very aware of this. And until I discovered that video, I was like, oh, you can adjust the tune of your voice. And I think after practicing that, doing public speaking myself, I learned how to control my voice, and then just eventually got comfortable with how it sounds.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's good. I think when people talk fast naturally and then they slow down, you kind of like move in and you're paying attention. You know, you kind of that's good advice. That's good advice. Just Samson says, I did way back in the day, but now I just run with it. My voice is my voice. Again, speaking to that. There's a question. So Adrian here. What's the normal demographic ethnicity wise in your workplace? And are you the only Filipino? Assuming you're Filipino, right?
We're pretty mixed there. I mean, I'm fortunate enough to be in an environment where there's a lot of POCs and just having that as a good example. So yeah, there's a spread of some of the people that work there. So Chris, he's the owner, he's the founder, he's a Vietnamese immigrant. And then there's Koreans that work there. I am the only Filipino that work there. We got a bunch of team that's remote. Our guy Alex is out in Romania. Elle is up in Canada. And then we have a writer out in Colorado, I believe she's at. So it's pretty mixed, and it's been mixed in the last 10 years or so that I've been actually working with Chris in both companies. And, you know, we've had female directors there, which I've studied under and worked under. And then, you know, young people, older people, it's shifted quite a bit, and it's always changing. But the thing that's always been a staple is the mindset, and that's all driven by Chris, where he's a constant improver, and he's one person that, even though we spent the last 5 years doing something a certain way, he's ready to throw that all out and try something new the next day. And I think that environment of constant change is the thing that keeps us all youthful and keeps the demographic of people in how they think there. And that represents the current people that are still at the future.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I mean, that's ideal, right? Especially in a place like that, like where it's safe. I feel like I get the vibe that it's safe. It's a safe place to throw out ideas without getting shot down and, that sort of thing. So that's good. So there you go. That answers your question. So you are the only Filipino, but it's a very diverse workplace.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Another good question here by Adrian. Who do you ask to pre-screen your videos before they go public? Yeah, what's the process there? So for the future, does it go through a couple different people to make sure, it's ready to go live?
Yeah, so the way, and we've done it many different ways over the years. I think early in the day, because I was coming as a director from the commercial world and then jumping into the future, I was mostly the guy to check everything. So I had editors, they were working on stuff, and I would check and review their work. More recently, that's changed. At the end of last year, I think Chris wanted everybody to be a little bit more autonomous, have a little bit more authorship over the work they're doing, and not have it all bottleneck on me. Because what happened is that over the years, I spent more of my time checking work than actually producing work. And Chris felt like, you know what, I feel like I'm wasting your talent. I feel like you're a great maker. I mean, the evidence is there on your channel, and I want you to do more of that for our channel. So what he did to shift us around is now we kind of just check in on each other. So there's a pool of about 4 or 5 editors. We're all producing content. And then we just post in a Slack group. It's like, here's the latest video. I've got it to this 90% mark, and I'm looking for feedback on X, Y, and Z. So we don't leave it open-ended, like, oh, give me feedback on anything. We say, I'm looking for feedback on, like, can you please check my spelling because I'm bad at spelling? Or can you check on the music because I don't know if this is overpowering or not? Or can you let me know if this flows? So we'd be very strict about the objectives of what kind of feedback we're looking for. And then just one other editor will just jump on and then help them out. And that's usually how we do it. We just kind of tag each other in so that we're not making the whole editorial team all review one video, but we're just taking turns helping each other. And I think that dynamic is really good because, one, it keeps things a little bit more light and us producing more. And two, it keeps more fresh eyes, meaning I will work on something for a long time and then a set of fresh eyes will come look at it. And then I might do a version 2 if it's something very important, have somebody else review it. And then they come at it with fresh eyes. And the fresh eyes tend to be more objective because they're less close to it and they don't have the bias of their previous experience with it.
Nice. That's really good. Has there ever been a video that's been like, let's just forget it, let's just redo this thing? Have you guys ever had any of those, or mostly they're just edits? Yeah.
No, there's plenty where after the first version, I would say, or somebody would say, you know what, it doesn't matter how much we work on this. There's no way we can polish this turd, like this is not good. And when I watch certain videos, it's like, yeah, I know we spent maybe 10 hours cutting this, but do we want to spend 10 hours more on something that we know is not going to perform?
Right.
Is you just get rid of the sunk loss bias and just say, you know what, this one's worth just killing. Let's just move on to the next thing because it's a better use of our time. So we've definitely had those. It's not often, but we have had those.
Yeah. That's cool, man. That's always really good, being really critical with your work. And again, if you're putting it on YouTube, it's going to be there for a long time. So you want to make sure it's getting traction and it's the right thing that you're putting out. Awesome. So Just Samson says, solid advice on editing down your projects. Miss Betty Fitness says, thank you. Fabulous advice. Wrote it down, need to think about it and put it into practice. Absolutely. Okay. So follow-up question here, guys. So get your questions in. And I want to make sure I respect Matthew's time as well. He's a busy guy. So follow-up question from Just Samson. If Notion goes away, what's your backup plan for your data?
It would be, there you go, sketchbook. I have dozens and dozens of notebooks and sketchbooks, and I go back and forth between my digital tools and my analog ones to capture my ideas and thoughts. And one thing I know is nothing is forever, right? Nothing is forever. Everything is going to change. So if I'm constantly thinking like, oh, will this program go away? Oh, will the economy be this way? Oh, will the market respond? All these things, what if? It's like, yeah, something is going to change for sure.
Yeah.
I don't operate that way because if I do, then I'm going to be so stressed out. And it's like Notion or my journal or my notebook is just a way for me to take the tangled mess of what's right here and sorted out somewhere else. That's all it is. And usually I don't necessarily even revisit those things. I'm just done with it, and I've moved on with my life to the next thing. So that's the only purpose. It's just a brain dump to sort it out and clarify so that I could do the hard work, do the next part, which is produce something.
Great, man. Great advice. Adrian, so this is more of a technical question, but what's your opinion on RAID systems and physical storage? So what do you guys store all of your videos, back it up, double backups? Like what's the process there?
Yeah, the crazy thing over for the future, we have an enterprise plan with Dropbox. So it's unlimited storage.
Mm-hmm.
So before we used to have a server on site, but because we've all moved to remote working, and we just need to be more flexible, we have about 80 terabytes worth of content stored on Dropbox. And we only sync on the things that we're currently working on. And that's how we manage it. And then in terms of me personally, because I've been starting to shoot more 4K footage and tons of it. Even though I have 8 terabytes on my MacBook Pro, which is a ton, you'd be surprised how easily that gets eaten up. So recently I upgraded to a NAS, a network attached storage, with 20 terabytes, and I'm using a Synology for that.
There you go, Adrian. Hopefully that answers your question. Claudia just had a comment: how to speak so that people want to listen by Julian Treasure. I think that's a resource there. Yeah, that's
the one about the voice.
That's the one. Thanks, Claudia. Adrian here from San Diego. Good to see you, Adrian. Just popping in to say that after seeing Matthew's videos, became a fan. Yeah, it doesn't take much. Doesn't take long. You watch a few seconds, man. You're like, subscribe. Done. Awesome. We got a few more questions here, Matthew. Appreciate your time here. How do you perfect your cadence when speaking on stage and camera? Any good books, courses, tips? Maybe resources. Do you have any books or courses that you can recommend there?
No books or courses, just that Julian Treasure video. Watch it again, and then just study people who you like, how they speak. So one good example is comedians. Studying comedians are excellent because they're all about cadence and delivery. Their joke won't be funny if they don't deliver it right. So some of the best people, like you'll see them fluctuate in terms of energy and speed, and then slow down when they want you to pay attention to the details right before they give the punchline.
Yeah.
And then they let it sit and simmer, and then let the audience do their thing, right? So just studying people that you like the way how they speak. The biggest thing that's been most impactful for me is just slowing down. I know when I get very excited, when I nerd out about something, I'll start speaking very, very fast. And then I start tripping over my words. I lose my train of thought, or I start using all kinds of filler words like, whatever. And then I sound like a goober. I don't sound like how I want to sound. But when I slow down, that way my brain and my mouth can get a little bit more in sync, because my brain works a lot faster than my mouth does. So just by slowing down, I can improve the clarity of my thoughts and being comfortable with silence. Most people are uncomfortable with silence.
Yep.
So I just leave those pauses in there, because for me, I use those moments of silence to catch my brain up, collect my thoughts. I think before I speak. I try not to just blah, 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 because I don't like sounding that way. So slowing down is impactful and getting comfortable with silence.
Great advice. I think a lot of YouTubers want to fill every second with a word, just because we're all trying to make sure people are staying on. And sometimes the silence is actually what causes them to stay on. There's some really good examples of YouTube video. I mean, your channel. I mean, there's so many channels where they slow down, they speed up. Also with comedians, great advice. I mean, also what I notice with comedians, Matthew, is they read the audience really well. When the audience is starting to get disconnected, they'll pull them back. They pull them back into getting their attention again. Good advice. Follow comedians. Awesome. Just Sampson says, first time I saw Chris, he was doing a demo in the lobby of a convention center. Solid dude. Mike Freak says, great to see Pinoy's in the creative world, mabuhay. Hello, good to see you here. Thanks for joining us. Definitely will watch this replay later. And we got Graham says, Nas Synology for the win. Awesome. Okay, let's see if there's any other questions here. Thank you for answering my questions. Filipino creators, encouraging and inspiring. Keep it up. Future looks like an awesome work culture. Definitely does. Definitely does. This is so funny. I booked comedians for years and have always judged them based on their timing. It's good.
There you go.
There it is. There it is. Okay. And then the last comment here, Graham, great advice. Got to run. Really enjoyed your insights, Matthew and Sina. So Matthew, thank you so much. Man, you gave us more time than I had asked for. So thank you. Appreciate your generosity. I'll let you get back to your thing. And I know you guys are busy. You and your wife are doing some stuff in the workshop there. And so
yeah, our makeshift workshop, which is just our back patio. So we're
I love it.
stuff.
I love it. I love it. Any last sort of words for our TubeBuddy audience? Where can they find you? Where can they connect with you and all the things that you're creating and producing?
Yeah, so you can find me pretty much everywhere on all the social platforms at Matthew Encina. That's my first and last name together. You can see more of my work at matthewencina.com. If you want to learn about the future, you can check out our YouTube channels. The Future is Here, and that's The Future without an E. And the other one is The Future Academy. The Future is Here is our primary channel where we teach soft skills to creative entrepreneurs so that they can earn a living doing what they love. And then the Future Academy is focused on hard skills, so tutorials on learning how to be creative, like how do you build a color palette, how do you use typography, so on and so forth. So those are our other channels there. And if you want to just look us up in general, thefuture.com.
Awesome. Awesome. Matthew, thank you so much again, guys. Thanks for joining us live. And if you're watching the replay and you have a question for Matthew, just leave a comment. I'll track Matthew down, get him to answer for you guys.
I'll surf the comments for a little bit for at least the next few days.
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks, Matthew. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.